to the cloud. Here we go. So I think we're all set. So tonight I'm going to be presenting to you tips for a successful job search in a time of recovery, right? So why are we choosing this topic tonight? What hiring employers want and how to shorten the job search. Right now, we're in a very good time to be looking for employment. I always tell my grads, I tell my upcoming grads, I tell my students that right now is an excellent time to search for work if you want to work. Realistically, if you want to work. Many jobs out there, many employers hiring. Employers are extra picky, okay? If they ask you for a list of references, if they ask you for a cover letter, if you really, nail the interview and they're asking you for these supplemental materials, if you don't supply those supplemental materials to them within a timely fashion, 24 hours, 48 hours is even too long, you will have missed the boat. I've had a couple of opportunities over the last couple of months where grads have wanted to be hired into a law firm. I've set up interviews for them. The law firm absolutely adores them, wants to extend them an offer, but they don't get a thank you letter, and the employee doesn't get the offer. It's little things like that. Or an employer will say, I need a cover letter because I want to see his or her writing style. They supply me with a cover letter 3 weeks later, and the employer hired somebody else. Very frustrating. Again, the time is now, seize the moment right now. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So who am I, right? So my name is Eeyore Andruk. I have a master's in higher education. I'm the assistant director of online career services, and I also teach a class at Berkeley College, a career development class on how to job search, and how to write a good resume. I've been with Berkeley College since 2016. Before Berkeley College, I worked in corporate marketing. I bring over 20 years of leadership experience within personal and career counseling, working with different kind of support services in higher education. Again, I mentioned I earned my master's degree from Caldwell University about 2 years ago, and an undergrad degree from Montclair State about 24 years ago. Adjunct professor, like I had mentioned, and I'm a member of several committees at the college, including Community Service Week. And so if you guys got some emails from me about Community Service Week, I'm that guy. So what are we going to be covering today? We're going to be covering these bullet points right here. I'm going to hopefully give you the tools to, number one, be the graduate with a strong resume. Number two, be prepared to write a killer cover letter. Number three, be your own brand. Number four, be flexible. And I want you to learn how to be the candidate with references and other supporting documentation, like I had said, and be the one to seal the deal and show them that you want it, show the employers that you want it. So again, like I mentioned earlier, with the gray COVID-riddled cloud of 2020, it's slowly lifting. 2021 should really be the year of you, the proactive job seeker. Berkeley College alumni will learn about the current hiring climates and traits needed to be your best at the job search. I'm going to show you different best practices to show you what employers are looking for right now. I'm constantly being asked by students and graduates and personal connections about the current hiring climate. People watch the news and they see the economy is booming and they're not sure if it's really accurate. The economy really is booming. In my opinion, if you want to work, again, like I said, if you follow these simple steps, you will find the job. These 5 bullet points, once you master them, they will help you shorten the job search. So I'm going to be presenting to you the following. First and foremost, be the graduate with a strong resume. Okay. So what is a resume? A lot of people have a resume. I'm confident that everybody in this Zoom has a resume. Because you will have or are currently working with your career counselor. A strong resume is really a personal sell sheet, and it provides a snapshot of your experiences and how your qualifications relate to the job you're applying to. It's recommended that if you have several that it's recommended that you have several versions of your resume depending on what you're going for. So if you're a accounting major, let's say an accounting grad, you may have a different resume for looking for accounting jobs in a hospital versus looking for accounting jobs in technology versus looking for accounting jobs in like corporate retail. So, you may have different versions, making sure that your resume is perfect, free of spelling and grammar errors. In addition to that, being free of font inconsistencies, right? So what are font inconsistencies? You don't want the top to have Times New Roman and have Calibri in the resume, as well as Arial and other fonts. You don't want it to look like a ransom letter. So, work closely with your career counselor or a colleague. As sometimes we spend a lot of time in a document, we may not see these glaring errors. We may not see these errors on font inconsistencies. So just a question for everybody. You guys can type in the chat. What are some things on a resume that you think that an employer would automatically remove you from the candidacy for a job? What are some things in a resume that would kind of eliminate you from the running? If you guys can put that in the chat, what would I had mentioned a couple things. I had mentioned spelling errors, grammatical errors. Let me see what we have over here. Grammatical errors, right? Too many points, right? Maybe too long. Not showing the skill they're looking for, you're right. Too much writing, maybe too long. So a resume is usually 1 to 2 pages, depending on the candidate. I'd like to say that usually somebody with military experience, sometimes that'll go into 2 pages, but you can even boil it down to 1 page. Something that's not in here, irrelevant information, good point. Lying on a resume, never lie on a resume, very important. So I'm going to show you a couple of resume templates just to kind of show you. And again, it doesn't really make a difference. The template isn't a make or break thing as long as the information is in there. So I'm going to show you a couple of templates. Bear with me. I'm going to stop the sharing of this screen. Let's see. And I'm going to share another screen with you in a second. So there's one template, another template. All right. So I'm going to share a couple of screens with you. So here's a master resume template. Does everybody see this template right now? First and last name at the top. So again, it's got to be very clear. Your first, is it big enough for everybody? Can everybody see it okay? Okay. First and last name, of course, city, state. Do not include your mailing address. Just for privacy and security reasons. Realistically, you never know who you're interviewing with. You don't want them to follow you home. Put in your email address. Make sure it's a nice email address. Like, you could have a Gmail address, first name dot last name at gmail.com. Nothing like stoner24, nothing inappropriate. Nothing, I love beer25 at gmail.com. Keep it very clean. And also you should include your LinkedIn. LinkedIn's very important, which we'll go over shortly. So again, this is just a template. Include your major. Let's say you're a legal studies major. You could say you're a legal studies professional once you've earned a degree. And then you go into the positioning statement, which is your own unique value proposition. Anything that focuses on what you are, who you are, what you're looking for, the skills you bring to the table should be no more than 2 to 3 sentences. The positioning statement. And again, your career counselor can share with you a positioning statement document, how to create that. Start off with your education. If you just graduated, if you don't have much experience, start off with your education, move into your professional experience. Doesn't matter if you pushed carts at the grocery store. It doesn't matter if you worked in retail. There's a lot to be said about those kind of jobs. Restaurant jobs, sometimes we'll have grads who don't have much experience. These kind of jobs, these retail jobs, these restaurant jobs, They really teach you a lot of the skills that you can't learn in a classroom. Customer service skills, so sometimes when you're working in a corporate office, you're the face of that organization, you're the face of that company. So, you could talk about your customer service skills working at McDonald's, wherever you were working before. There's no such thing today as, job shaming anybody. Every job is respectful. Every job has a purpose. So here's one example of a resume. Again, this goes into a second page. Professional and community involvement, that's important. Philanthropy is important, giving back. You may think that you don't give back, but then you realize that you are active in your house of worship. You are active with the boys club. You're active with the girls club. Nobody's gonna, ask you how many hours you volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club, even if you worked on a project, for a couple of hours last year. You can include that. On my resume personally, I've included different 5Ks that I've run, like for fallen police officers, for the Valerie Fund, which is a pediatric cancer association, raising funds for pediatric cancer. It just kind of really, the resume and these philanthropic opportunities gives you an entree to kind of position yourself, to show you the kind of person you are, stuff you've done outside of the workforce. Any kind of certifications, professional trainings, you may have earned some kind of, Google certifications, those are free, and any kind of computer skills. Anybody with me? Is everybody with me, I should say? Any questions so far? So that's one version of a resume. I'm going to show you another version, which I like too. Again, there's no such thing as the perfect version, but I'm going to show you this as well. So you guys see this PowerPoint slide over here? Okay. So again, first name, last name, tagline, you can include, who you are. You can have a tagline for yourself. It's kind of like a shortened position statement. Some people will include a photo. I'm really not a fan of the photo because people discriminate, whether we realize it or not. That's the reality that we live in. I would not include a photo. But again, this is another format you can use. The job title and the group you were with, job title 2, et cetera, et cetera. How you structure your time. You can be as creative with this as you can. You can change this to the kind of skills you have. Maybe you're a professional marketer, you're excellent with graphic design. You can position this part, the bottom left donut, I should say, in any way that you want. Philosophy, that's your personal philosophy. Let's say, like, I work in higher education. I have a philosophy of the importance of giving back to the community and serving students and grads. So, right, something like that, whatever your own personal philosophy is. Again, if you have any questions, Jim's here, and we have, from New Jersey, we have Anna who works with other alumni, and we have your career counselors who can help you create these, pretty much anything on the resume, highlights of what you're most proud of. So that's another version of a resume. Questions so far? So do you like a picture? Jim asked me. Yeah, I mentioned before, Jim, I'm not really a big fan of the picture because again, the world we live in, people discriminate. So I really would not include a photo.
Can I ask a question though?
Yeah, of course.
One of the things that I had learned through sort of outplacement services was that the busier the resume, and if there's too much design on there, when it goes through the automated systems, when you post your resume, it could get kicked out because they can't read it through the automated system. Do you know about that?
Yeah, the applicant tracking system.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, that's another version. That's another reason I would really stay away from images. I would really have it text heavy. So the applicant tracking system, for those that don't know, there's a website called jobscan.co. Maybe you're familiar. It's very inexpensive. What you could do is you could copy and paste a job description in one box on the website, and then you copy and paste your resume, and it'll give you a percentage on how high up you'll come up in the applicant tracking system. So the applicant tracking system is a program that these big companies use, Google, Amazon, IBM, Boeing, to kind of bring your resume to the top of the list. So for every one job these companies have, they may get like, 600-800 resumes. So how do you get to the top? you want your wording to match up with the job description. So I'm not a fan of the applicant tracking system, but that's the world we live in. Example, if you have years of supervisory experience, but the job is asking for management experience, well, it's the same thing. You know, you could just swap out the words, but a program like JobScan will help you identify those words that you're missing. It'll give you alternate synonyms to use versus what you have in order to come up higher in the applicant tracking system. So that website is jobscan.co. I'm glad you brought that up. And again, sometimes the crazier the resume with regards to images and whatnot, it doesn't help anybody. It may look nice if you're applying to like a small mom and pop shop, or if you're hand submitting it, but a lot of people don't necessarily hand submit the resume right now. So any other questions so far? So I wanted to just kind of like take a quick second just to kind of let you know. So I know that we're all here, you know, we have the this is an alumni group. You know, I want to make this fun. It's summer and I want to make this a little bit interactive. I had asked a question earlier and I'll ask some more questions in a little bit. So what I want to do tonight, you know, I know we have an internet group. We have about 13 people or so. So if you're interested, you know, the first 10 of the 13 to email between now and whenever, you know, later on, career services online at berkeleycollege.edu. Career services online at berkeleycollege.edu. If you email me your mailing address and shirt size, we will get a Berkeley College t-shirt out to you if you choose. The first 10 people. So there's 10 of us, there's 13 of us. I'm going to check this email later on after the Zoom. So whether you get it to me now, whether you get it to me later on, career services online at berkeleycollege.edu. We will send the first 10 people a t-shirt. I just need your name, mailing address, and your shirt size. And maybe we'll throw in some Berkeley College sunglasses. We're still looking for those, but so again, so moving on, I'm going to share my screen again. Moving on to cover letters. Okay, everybody see this? Be prepared to write a killer cover letter. Okie dokes. So I have this, you know, a couple of cover letter samples over here, which I'll, you know, I could show you some templates as well. You know, here's another cover letter, you know, so this person included a picture. I mean, it happens to be Nicolas Cage looking crazy, but, you know, just don't sound crazy in the cover letter. Keep it really clean, keep it very professional. While an employer may not always ask for a cover letter, a job seeker should always provide one and make sure it's error-free and have several versions of the cover letter. So if the employer gets 5 candidates, 5 resumes for a job, and 2 of those 5 people include a cover letter, who do you think is going to get the interview? It's going to be the people with the cover letter. So cover letter gives an employer an inside look about who they are outside of the resume, and it shows your attention to detail. Granted, it's error-free and you know, free of grammar errors, free of spelling errors. So again, it shows the employer how you are able to paint a picture in words. So you could put something in a resume that's not in your something in your cover letter that's not in your resume. Maybe something that's of interest. Maybe how you helped, you know, I don't know, solve a problem at your previous employer. So cover letter is always very important. So just curious, again, in the chat, if you guys, do you think that you should include a cover letter with a job application, even though an employer doesn't ask for one? What, you know, and I just mentioned that, but what are your thoughts? Or, You could either include it in the chat or, you can freely talk. What are your thoughts on cover letters? What has been your experience with cover letters? Anyone want to chime in on cover letters?
I think most employers do want to have that. A cover letter with your resume.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I work with a lot of the legal studies majors and grads, and a lot of the marketing majors and grads. And if you don't include a cover letter, chances are you don't even get the interview, because with something like legal, you have to be so meticulous with your grammar and your spelling. And that's really outlined in the cover letter almost as a writing sample. Same thing in marketing, same goes with marketing. So in my experience, if somebody hasn't included a cover letter, chances are they didn't get the interview. We have cover letter templates, which I could share as well. Well, somebody wrote, or is it better to add something new? Can you elaborate on that, Daniela? Daniela, can you unmute yourself? 'Cause I know you had mentioned better to.
Sorry. I was wondering, is it okay to just write the same thing that's in a resume, or is it a lot better to have something completely new?
I would include some components of the resume, because you're always going to want to refer to the resume in the cover letter. But I would include some components that maybe that aren't in the resume. Maybe you don't have your philanthropy in the resume. Maybe there wasn't enough room. You can include stuff like that. Or you can include something like, I'll give you an example. Like I said before, maybe you don't have that much relevant experience, and an employer is going to look at your resume and say, I'm working at so-and-so firm, and I'm looking for somebody to, again, answer the phones and, make sure that they're the face of the organization. And this person's only worked at Barnes and Nobles, right? So you could say in the resume, while it may not look like I have relatable experience, I bring almost a decade of extraordinary customer service experience. I always look presentable at work, and, just stuff like that, stuff that they may not have thought of. Or you could say, while, I may not have the 2 years of legal experience you're looking for, I just earned my degree at Berkeley College, and I studied, I went through these classes. I earned my degree, and I took classes, bam, 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 family law, real estate law, torts, stuff like that, something that's relatable that they may not see.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. So I'm going to try to share a cover letter now.
Will you be able to send us copies of these templates and this sort of presentation?
Yeah, for sure.
Great, thank you.
For sure. Hold on a second. But you have to, I'll send it to you, but you have to send me your information to that email address with your shirt size, and I'll send it. I promise you, I'll send you all this stuff. If you want. If not, you could just email me and I'll send it to you. I don't want to force you to give me your address. It's fine. So here's one cover letter template. So what is a cover letter, right? Okay, does everybody see the cover letter guideline and tip template? So I have over here, I could send this to everybody. The top of the cover letter should have your name and address. It doesn't always have to, again, no, I wouldn't put the mailing address in there. I would just put city and state. Put the date, name of the employer if you have it. See if you could find somebody directly at the company that's hiring, not just human resources. The company, the address, dear Mr. So-and-so. The hiring manager may be younger than you. Don't put dear Joe, dear Jamie, dear Mrs. Smith, dear Mr. Owens. First paragraph of your letter should include your information about why you're writing. Good afternoon. I read with interest that you have an opening at your office. If there's a requisition number, make it as precise as possible. mention the position that you're applying for, include the name of the mutual contact. If you have somebody that sent you, somebody that said, let's say like I'm working with Jill, Jill recommended I apply for, Jill Z recommended I apply for the position. That'll kind of get your foot in the door because she's advocating for me. The second paragraph should include what you have to offer to the employer. This is where you can say, while I may not have, the 2 years relatable experience you're looking for, I succeeded in school doing XYZ, taking these classes. I also have exemplary customer service skills, which I've earned awards for at my current job. And then conclude it by saying, thank you so much, and closes my resume. You may or may not include information on how to follow up. Always include information on how to follow up and say, I look forward to hearing from you. Well, you could say that at the end to end the cover letter. I would also write something like, I will be in touch with you within the next week or so to discuss how we can, whether or not we can mutually meet. Just be proactive, be as proactive as you can, advocate for yourself best you can. Because again, that'll shorten the job search site because nobody's doing that. And when I say, to include that and follow up, when I say follow up, I'm not talking about following up with the employer via email. I'm talking about following up via phone call. Email and, LinkedIn, it's just black text on a white background. You could tell somebody's, I guess, personality in a voice. You could tell somebody's sincerity in a voice. And I think that goes a long way. You have to be persistent. They won't always answer your phone calls. You might go to voicemail, but they may consider you because they say, wow, you know what? This Daniela, she's hungry, man. She really wants this job. So that's that on the cover letters.
Question, if you're applying online, is it
Sure.
is it okay just to say, and you don't know, man, woman, can you just say, dear hiring manager?
You can say dear hiring manager, but you can, try to find, you may be able to find somebody on LinkedIn. You may be able to Google and see, who the hiring manager is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just open up my next section. So, all right. So next section of the presentation is be your own brand. All right. So be your own brand. What does that mean? All right. So a LinkedIn profile is very important. And even if you have your own website, that can be critical too, just to kind of market yourself. And I know that I doubt anybody on this call or on this Zoom is a web developer, but there is really easy tools you can use. We had a presentation yesterday with Wix, W-I-X, where you can create your own website very inexpensively. So why is it important to have your own brand? So would Amazon be as successful in selling their products if they didn't have a website? No. You can work with your career counselor in creating a strong LinkedIn profile. You can use LinkedIn as almost as like your website. Look at this as your own website featuring the brand that you know best, which is you, right? So you look at brands like Nike, they have their own website. I look at my own brand, Eeyore Andruk, like that's I have my own website, which I'll go through. Your career counselor can help you create a rockstar profile on LinkedIn. They can help you with professional headshots and help you highlight all your career and academic successes. You can include recommendations from colleagues, a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. In addition, if you search yourself on the internet and scour your social media, you look for stuff that's incriminating and remove these items, because you may have posted something on Facebook 10 years ago. You may have posted a photo on Facebook 10 years ago, and it's incriminating. Let's say, you're holding a red Solo cup, or you're sticking up your middle finger, or you're, blasting a former employer. Remove that, because nobody really wants that. Nobody wants to hire that person. So that's important. I'm going to go through something in terms of this. I'm going to go through some other tools. I'm going to go through my LinkedIn briefly. Everybody with me so far? Okie dokes. So I mentioned LinkedIn. Everybody sees the LinkedIn site over here. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, of course. LinkedIn really, you have a nice professional headshot. This isn't really a professional headshot. This is actually a headshot that I took at a wedding I was at. If you zoom out, it's like my daughter, my son, and my wife, but I zoomed in and I like the way I looked in the picture. So this gives you an opportunity to really promote you as your own brand. You have your name, your title over here. It gives you the opportunity to self-publish. You could put published articles on here, put any kind of PowerPoints you've done, chime in on other stories, put your employment information on here. This is a much longer version of a resume. The resume, I didn't mention this earlier, I should have mentioned it. The resume goes back 10 years. Try not to go back more than 10 years. If you have to go back more than 10 years, there's ways of shortening it, but 10 years is really the max. But LinkedIn can go on for infinity. Like I was in corporate PR before, since 1999. And before that, I was in radio and drugstore. You could talk about your education, the classes you've taken on LinkedIn, any kind of certifications that you have. I have a couple of human resource certifications. You could put your high school information in here only because you never know who's from your high school on here, who was working where, they can help you out. Any kind of volunteer experience you've done, any kind of skills and endorsements, recommendations received, recommendations given, people that can recommend you. And it really speaks volumes on the work that you do. Honors and achievements, any kind of companies you follow. So that's important. I know LinkedIn is a whole other ball of wax. Again, we could talk about LinkedIn all night, so I'm not going to sit here all night. But LinkedIn, it's very important to have a LinkedIn page. LinkedIn's free. It's easy to navigate. We have a lot of resources on creating a strong LinkedIn. If you have any questions, again, you can email career services online at berkeleycollege.edu. I can send you those resources. Or you can email me. My email will be at the end of this presentation as well. I can send you the resources as well. Again, career services online at berkeleycollege.edu. Also, again, for those that came in late, if you haven't done so, if you email career services online at berkeleycollege.edu, I'll be sending the first 10 people a t-shirt, maybe some sunglasses, some other fun Berkeley stuff. Just send me your shirt size and your mailing address. So talking about branding, talking about personal branding. I have a website. Does everybody see this website? So this is an old photo. It needs to be updated. This is me about 100 pounds ago. I've lost a significant amount of weight, but it kind of talks about who I am, what I've done, what I'm able to do. It's not necessary, and different clients I've worked with, it's not necessary for you guys to create your own website, but it's really easier to do that now than ever. You can include it at the top of your resume. It helps you stand out. So any kind of publishing work you've done, I've done, nonprofit work I've done. That's important. Also, I talked about before about reputation management. There are companies, and again, I'm not promoting any company over the other. I know that brand yourself, we've worked with in the past, and brand yourself helps you scour your social media sites. So I'll tell you the importance of this. So, I'm not too old, and there's not such a long time ago where I was young and stupid, right? And I posted pictures of myself, at a party, and I had a red Solo cup, posted pictures of myself just doing stupid stuff, being a kid, right? And I forgot about them because they happened so long ago, 15, 20 years ago. And that kind of stuff comes up, that if you Google yourself, sometimes pictures will come up, sometimes old stories will come up, old text will come up on you. What this does is this will help you scour your social media profiles and identify the red flags. So this cost a couple of bucks. Again, we used to offer it to our grads and our students. We don't anymore. But again, it scours your Facebook. I think it may scour your Twitter And I know that at one point they were working on it, scouring your Instagram. I had a lot of trouble placing a very well-decorated veteran years ago. He was a IT major, and for some reason I just couldn't get him a job. And he had excellent skills and excellent resume, and I couldn't place him. But I realized why I couldn't place him, because when I Googled him, there was a picture of him like in Afghanistan, I think, in front of a military vehicle, in front of a tank, and he had both middle fingers up in the air. And I told him, like, you have to really remove this, and it turns out that was the problem. And he told me, well, I haven't used Facebook in so long. I'm like, it doesn't matter, it's still there. So you have to really keep it clean. And it's important, keeping your social media clean, because sometimes these employers will ask you for your social media handles. I'll give you an example. A couple of hours ago, I did an event with the FBI today, and they were talking about background checks. And one of the things that they mentioned in the background check was that they will ask you for your social media profiles and your passwords. And if you don't give it to them, they won't consider you for the job. I mean, especially on a federal level. I mean, they're looking for a lot of stuff, anything incriminating. They're looking for, racism, of course. They're looking for a lot of stuff. They're looking for any reason not to hire you. So you have to keep it clean. So let me ask you this question, either in the chat, or you can call out if you want. I just mentioned that, an employer like the FBI is able to access your social media profiles. If your social media profiles are set to private, right? So everybody will say, oh, my Facebook is set to private. My Instagram is set to private. Do you think they could still see your stuff? Just curious to know your thoughts.
Yes.
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 Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. In a lot of ways. First and foremost, unless you're married to Mark Zuckerberg, you don't own Facebook or Instagram. I don't know who the owner of Twitter is, but same thing with Twitter. Like it's all public, and even like TikTok. So a couple weeks ago, I had this thing with TikTok with my daughter, because she's a teenager. She's posting all kinds of just videos that teenagers post. Let's just leave it at that. And I'm not connected with her because she doesn't want to be connected with me. She doesn't want me to see what she posts. But I was sitting on my living room couch looking through TikTok, and all of a sudden one of her videos came up. And even though I'm not connected with her, TikTok has the rights to use it to promote TikTok. And they will promote it using your IP address and the surrounding IP addresses. So I saw my daughter, who's 15 years old, and she's like, shaking her butt, like in her room, like dancing to some kind of like rap music. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, Isabella, I'm like, this is you. And she's like, how'd you find this? Did you figure out my password? I'm like, no. I'm like, but this is the reason why you have to really watch what you post. That literally happened. It scared the bejesus out of me, and it scared the crap out of her, But, with regards to stuff like that, like TikTok, you really have to watch. And Facebook and Instagram, while your profiles may be private, your friends may not be private. And somebody can Google you, and they can see what you look like and see what that kind of image looks like in your friend's profile, in your friend's image, in your friend's picture that's not private, and they can figure it out, and I know that, everybody likes to have a drink here and there once in a while, and I get that. But again, you don't want to look bad, when looking for your job. So does this go through, I'm looking at the text over here. Does this go through most social media sites or the more popular ones? Daniela, it'll go through Facebook, it'll go through Twitter, it'll go through, I think, Instagram now. I don't think it goes through TikTok, but I just told you the TikTok story. And TikTok is kind of a big player with the job search right now. That's a whole other presentation, which I want to put together. TikTok is now doing video resumes, which will help you stand out even further, which is pretty neat. So that's something new that I'm not so familiar with, but I have to learn about. It doesn't go through your Snapchat, because Snapchat, the pictures, they erase, I guess. But again, I guess when in doubt, I would just kind of watch myself in terms of that kind of stuff. So moving on, any questions so far? Okay. Again, for those that just joined, I think we have another person that joined. I'm giving away t-shirts. If you email careerservicesonline@berkeleycollege.edu, the first 10 people that email me at careerservicesonline@berkeleycollege.edu, I will send you with your mailing address, your name, your mailing address, and your t-shirt size. I'll send you a t-shirt and maybe some other swag, maybe some Berkeley College sunglasses, fun stuff like that. So moving on to the presentation, to the next slide. Thank you, Lynn. Okay. So the next bullet point is to be flexible. So what does that mean, be flexible? Sometimes, if an employer asks you for your interview availability, reply to them as soon as you can, and call them if you're unable to speak. Like, let's say you're in a car with a screaming baby, let it go to voicemail, but call them back in a timely fashion. Call them back within an hour or so. Let them leave a voicemail. Be sure that your outgoing voicemail box is professional, just like your email address, and make sure it's not full. I can't tell you how many grads I have, students I have, where employers try to call them, their voicemail box is full. But it's imperative to call them back when you're available to speak, preferably the same day, maybe on your lunch break if you're at work, from a quiet area. Do not pick up. If you call them back and if they don't pick up, please leave a clear, professional, articulate voicemail. I always recommend everybody leave a voicemail while smiling. It sets a positive tone. I know it sounds kind of silly, but if you say, I don't know, I love computers with a serious face versus I love computers, it sounds different when you're smiling. It sets a positive tone. Once you reach them, let them know your availability for an interview as soon as possible. Same goes with email. If they're emailing you, reply right back. Reply to them as soon as you can in complete sentences. As well as an email signature if you have. Put your first name, last name, and your phone number in the email signature. Do not wait a few days. Again, these employers are ready to pounce like a puma. They want to hire you. Sometimes a job, with regards to flexibility, sometimes a job may not be 100% of what you're looking for, but consider the whole holistic viewpoint and how you will strengthen and sharpen the skill set for future opportunities. So let's say you're interested in working with in the legal department of Hackensack University Hospital, but you're only able to find another administrative role. So once you kind of learn their corporate culture, you can transfer into that legal department if you wish down the road. So just be flexible. If there's an employer that's hiring and the job isn't 100% spot on, be flexible with everything that you see. And by all means, talk to your career counselor. I talked to somebody the other day. She, unfortunately, she took a job with a company and she quit the same day that she took the job. And we helped her find that job because she saw no growth in that job. And she was there for, again, less than a day. When in doubt, understand that the beauty of Berkeley College, we're here to help you through thick and thin for life, right? So if you have any questions about your job search, if you have like a gut feeling your job is telling you I need to quit the job, don't quit the job just yet. Talk to your career counselor. He or she will be able to guide you in another way. So what is job, before I move to the next slide, which I'm already here, what does job flexibility mean to you? When I say job flexibility, can you guys either unmute yourselves or chime in the chat? What does that mean to you, job flexibility? Or is it pretty much what I said?
I think to me it also sounds like giving, or at least appearing to give most of your time if needed. Instead of maybe saying you're busy for certain things, just kind of being open to what could be needed from you.
Like going the extra mile, right? That's good too. Anybody else? That's a good answer. Anybody else on job flexibility? There's no wrong answer.
I think of it in terms of maybe your hours, how you're working, whether you're working remotely, whether you're working in an office, whether you're doing a standard 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 kind of thing.
Right, right. Yeah, that's important too. That's sure, absolutely. So moving on. Again, the next slide over here, be the one to seal the deal and show them that you want it. Again, like I mentioned earlier, always be prepared for an interview. If an employer asks you for a list of references or supporting material, such as a writing sample, have it ready and send it to them the same day they ask. Try not to wait until the next day. So what are references? References usually is just a Microsoft Word doc or Google Docs or a PDF, your name at the top, your city, state, your phone number. I recommend listing one academic reference, one professor or one academic advisor, one professional reference, somebody that you've worked with no matter what job you've had, and one personal reference, just somebody that can kind of vouch for your personality and your integrity. So that's important to include a reference list. And again, include their name, their title, affiliation, email, and phone number. Again, it can include a former supervisor, academic, and professional. Replying and providing these in a timely fashion always shows the employer that you're being proactive and you're a serious candidate.
Can a question on that? Are you asking your, I don't know, your professional person or your professor to provide you with a reference about you?
Not a reference. So you wouldn't ask them to provide a reference is a phone call. A reference is an email. Somebody that the employer can call and say, I understand you worked with Jill for 5 years. A recommendation is a letter. That's a little bit different.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so there's like recommendation letters.
Okay, so you just want to have these people as who they can reach out to for those references.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
No problem. So again, the importance, like I said, I could send you a sample of a reference list and anything with writing samples. I always get questions about writing samples, but I've never really written anything. But you just graduated, so of course you wrote something. If you're looking for a job in the legal field, if you're looking for a job in the marketing field, write, send them a copy of that paper you got an A on in those fields. They're not asking you to send them a dissertation, but they just want to see your writing style. They want to see that you could clearly explain yourself. So again, I'll send you samples of a reference list as well. So. And again, the thank you letter, okay? So I cannot stress a thank you letter, the importance of the thank you letter. So let me ask you, and I'm not going to judge anybody here. So who here in this group thinks that a thank you letter doesn't matter? Anyone? Who actively sends thank you letters constantly after an interview? Daniela, you're nodding your head. You send them or no?
No, I'm not sure I've ever sent one before.
Yeah. So a thank you letter is important, right? So thank you letter shows, and again, here's a sample. Here's a sample of a thank you letter. And again, I'll send you these samples as well. You send an employer a thank you email on the day of the interview expressing your appreciation that they took the time to meet with you. I can't tell you how many times, like I said earlier in our presentation, I have had, thank you letters matter. Thanks, Nazib. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, forgive me. If you don't send a thank you letter, chances are you won't move on to the next round, or they won't hire you at all. It's just a courtesy, really quick. Send them an email the same day for good measure. And again, I'm really old school, and I know it's 2021. I like to handwrite a thank you letter, and I haven't done that because I'm not looking for jobs right now. But I remember even when I applied to Berkeley, I interviewed with I think like 4 or 5 people, and I hand wrote thank you letters in addition to the emails. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you're writing the person's name and address on the outside of the envelope, it's gonna catch their attention because what comes in the mail, like bills and junk. When someone's handwriting something, it's gonna show that you took the time to write something. And you could buy inexpensive hardstock note cards at like a dollar store with envelopes, and just send it out. Just, thank you so much, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much, Mrs. Marla. And, I'm very interested in the job. I look forward to hearing from you. So again, that'll help you stand out. The old school is the new school, I feel like, in 2021. This will help you stand out and from the competition. A lot of people don't handwrite letters anymore. What if you do not have nice handwriting? Christine, I'm glad you asked that, because I bet you my handwriting is a lot worse than yours if you're concerned about your own handwriting. Because I think in another world I should have been a doctor, because half the time I can't even read my own handwriting. But just do your best, just write slowly. It could be 2 or 3 sentences. If you don't have nice handwriting, that's fine. No one's ever going to judge the handwriting. They're just going to say, wow, you know what, this person went out of their way and they wrote me a handwritten letter, a handwritten note. Not a letter, just a couple of lines on a note card. So here's a sample. Dear so-and-so interviewer's name, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I love getting to hear about your what you're talking about, especially impressed with, et cetera, et cetera. A conversation reinforced my excitement to join your company. You could write something like that similar in a handwritten note. But this is like an email sample.
If you sent an email sample, should your handwritten note be different?
A little bit different,
Little bit.
I just wanted to thank you again for your time and just explain to you that I'm definitely interested in the position. If you're not interested in the position, there's no need to write the handwritten note. But always send an email, even if you're not interested. And it's okay if you're not interested in every position, because understand that when these employers are interviewing you, you're also interviewing them. You may not be 100% fit for every employer 100% of the time. And that's okay. Like the ball is in your court a little bit too. You don't want to go to a job and, you may go to a job and feel something in your gut that's not for you. That's okay. So another thing that I had mentioned earlier is the whole self-advocacy. So what is self-advocacy? It's very important, to call on your own behalf, to follow up on your own resume. If you don't hear back from an employer within a week or so, you could send them an email expressing that you're interested, include a link to an article of interest, maybe something that you saw that's relatable to the job. Perhaps that it's something that's relatable to the subject that you may have discussed during an interview if you met with them. A few days after that, always give them a call and, following up on your status and interest in the position. Easy for me to write this, right? It's easy for me to talk about self-advocacy. I'm going to be 100% honest. I have trouble advocating for myself. When I was in the job search, it made me very nervous to call and kind of toot my own horn, because I didn't want to seem conceited. I didn't want to seem full of myself. But if you write a script, if you write 2 to 3 sentences about yourself, my name is Eeyore Andruk, and I'm a higher education professional. I applied for the position of Director of Career Services at ABC College. I have almost a decade of experience. I'd really love to show you what I can do with your institution. Just write it out for yourself and read it off. That's okay. But again, phone calls are everything, because phone calls, you can detect the personality and the tone in your voice. Again, if you need help, your career counselor can help you. I can send you an example of what you can write. You can include 2 to 3 bulleted examples of the stuff that you've done. And you can also pull from, I mentioned before that in the resume, the positioning statement. You can read off your positioning statement word for word. This is who I am. This is my experience. This is what I'm looking to do. Really, easy stuff. But I know that it's hard to do. You could practice with a friend. You can call your friend on the phone and say, do me a favor, hear me out. You could practice in the mirror. I know practicing in the mirror sounds kind of kooky because you're talking to yourself, but that's okay. Listen, we've been through COVID, we've been through all this, and, we've been through worse situations. So, now is the time to kind of like boost your own confidence and be able to advocate for yourself. And, that's, in conclusion, the ultimate question in 2021 boils down to whether the employer is hungry to hire or whether a job seeker is hungrier to get hired. Timeliness sets a precedence and is critical to the job search. And employers want to hire and begin training the best and brightest of their future employees. And if that employer asks for something specific, don't wait until the next day or week or 3 weeks. Hit the ground running and give it to them now. That's my advice to everybody. And here's my contact info. Again, you can email me or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can email careerservicesonline@berkeleycollege.edu, or this email address to connect with me. And send me your shirt size and your mailing address, and I'll send you something in the mail. So any questions, comments?
This was great. Thank you. Very informative and helpful. Thank you.
Good. Any other, thank you so much. Any other, somebody asked, Christine asked if the replay of the webinar from the FBI that I talked about will be available. It is available. And if you can, if anybody's interested in that, you can email me as well. Same email address, because I was running that. Any other questions, comments? I'm here to help you, or anything you wish I had covered, anything I didn't cover that you had questions about maybe? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. It's a little bit after 7. I'm going to be sharing this I think Michael's going to be sharing this with those who couldn't join tonight. Let me stop sharing and put my camera on.
Oh, actually, can I ask you a quick question?
You can ask me as many as you like.
Oh, how would you handle a gap in your resume?
It depends on what you are doing in the gap. And that's something you can address in the cover letter. So what give me an example of what you were doing in the gap.
Okay, well, I had worked with Bear Stearns, and this was a while ago, so it was 2008. So, that was when the whole financial industry fell out of bed. So I was out of work for maybe almost a year.
Okay. I mean, but from 2008 until now, are you working now?
Well, actually, I just got laid off from Wells Fargo, but I was there for 3 years.
Yeah, Wells Fargo's tough. I know. My cousin was with Wells Fargo in North Carolina. He just got laid off too. Yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
I get that. But so you can address the gaps in your cover letter. You can fill the gaps if you did any kind of volunteer work, any kind of consulting work. You may have done some kind of financial consulting. I know when I was in between jobs, I did a lot of PR and marketing consulting. That's how I filled. I had about a year and a half of gap. I did some freelance writing. I know that people are always doing something during the gap. Maybe it's taking care of somebody elderly. You can mention that. You could even put that in there, caregiver, just for those 2 years. I mean, this is, we're human beings, and if people don't respect that, then you don't really want to work for that employer, in my opinion. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways. It really depends on the situation on how to address the gaps.
Right. Well, I did do temp work, except that the agencies that I was dealing with kept saying to me, well, the company, because, they could be picky and choosy, wanted somebody that had a permanent job, and they didn't want to look at people who were temping. Because I did temp during that time period.
Yeah, so you could put the name of the temp firm and you could put various projects, including, bullet points underneath that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's what I did, except when you go through an agency, since they have like 500 resumes on their desk, they're going to take the person that has a permanent job for the past 10 years, as opposed to someone who was temping, for a couple of years or a year.
Right. But that's the reality. I mean, you had mentioned, again, that's why I'm saying you can put in the cover letter too. You had mentioned the whole status, the state of the financial industry back then. That wasn't a secret. We went through a rough time in our country back then. So you could say that, you were, temping at different agencies during that time. But I think that it's a long time ago, 2008, right? So I think that I'm not sure that would really, cast a shadow on your experience, because you've been working since then. Does that,
Right.
does that help? Does that,
Well, I mean, I was temping until 2011, so I was temping for 3 years.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
just that,
yeah, you could talk to your alumni counselor and they could show you how to position yourself. There are ways of doing it. There are definitely ways of doing it and kind of having your best foot forward.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just have one real quick. Is it
Sure.
best to keep your resume like one page, or is over two like too lengthy? Or I don't know.
It depends on the candidate. It depends on the person. One page is the norm. I've seen 2 pages. 2 pages is okay. If you're a recent college grad, chances are it's going to be 1 page. If you've been in the field for a while, chances are it'll be 2 pages. If you're a military veteran, it'll be 2 pages. Then there's a whole other side of things. There's a federal resume. Those can be 4 or 5 pages. But again, 1 page, 2 pages, it really depends on the person. Depends on your experience.
And Eeyore, just to add something real quick, if I can,
Sure.
getting back to the question about the gaps in employment or anything in your background or past history or any kind of, we will talk forever about LinkedIn and networking, right? Because networking and having relationships and building relationships, that is the key that will eliminate any bias, any gaps, because people will interview, they'll want to bring in people they know, maybe they've worked with before. So there is going to be all kinds of situations within your background or your past, but the more you can do your LinkedIn networking and have some friends and have some connections and build those relationships, that usually leads to some better results, because then it comes down to, oh yeah, I know who you are, he's a great guy, yeah, let's bring him in for an interview, right? So use LinkedIn or other social media, I have to say that, and do that networking piece, because that's really important. We know networking is what's going to get you your next job, or at least a large portion of jobs are filled by who you know and who knows you.
Yeah, I second that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because networking is very important. Even now during COVID, when not everyone's shaking hands and seeing each other in the same room, you could do virtual networking. LinkedIn networking is very important. I love LinkedIn, right? So again, I worked in corporate PR and marketing for over 16 years. You could look at my LinkedIn profile, and I lost my job. It was like a mutual thing. The business wasn't doing well. It was a rough time in the business, and I took that time to pivot and change my career. And nobody really wanted to give me a chance in higher ed. I really wanted to get into higher education, but I had a lot of contacts at my local colleges. I had contacts, and I was going on different interviews, but it was hard for me. I didn't want to do PR marketing anymore. I wanted to go into the career counseling side of things. I had a lot of experience that wasn't on my resume in terms of career counseling, because I worked at the firm I worked at. I ran the internship department, and I trained, hired, and watched other interns grow hundreds and hundreds of students, hundreds and hundreds of graduates, ultimately moving on to huge things besides our company. And I actually had the opportunity to network with somebody who was my former supervisor. I met somebody on LinkedIn who was my supervisor. She interviewed me via phone. She gave me the opportunity to interview via phone for a job that wasn't even out there yet. And then she brought me in to interview with like 3 or 4 other people at Berkeley. This was like January 2015, I think. And she called me a couple of days later. I thought for sure I nailed the interview. And I did nail the interview, but they hired somebody else, and I was just devastated. And I kept in touch with her, with this woman who had, she had no reason to keep in touch with me, but I kept in touch with her, always calling her, asking her any other job opportunities at Berkeley. So she contacted me a day before my birthday in 2015, and she's like, Eeyore, I have that job open again. And I'm like, she's like, are you interested? I'm like, I'm interested. I'm like, but you interviewed me for it in January. I don't know what other questions I would ask. I'm going to be honest with you. I gave you like a whole plan of attack, how I'm going to be this awesome career services person. And I don't know what else to tell you. And she's like, no, I'm going to fast track you. And anyway, so I stayed in touch with her. Even though I didn't get the job in the beginning, I ended up getting the job 4 months later. So there's a reason why everything happens. I'm a big believer in science and stuff. LinkedIn is important. I met her on LinkedIn. I was very persistent. We both, I went to Montclair State for undergrad. She went to Montclair State for grad school. I asked her if I could meet with her for an informational interview over a cup of coffee. She shot me down. She's like, I don't drink coffee. I'm like, oh, over a cup of tea. I don't drink tea. I'm like, over a glass of water. And finally, she's like, all right, let's talk on Friday night. You have to be persistent. And again, you know, that was LinkedIn. And again, the whole phone personality thing. I talked to her for over an hour about a job that wasn't even posted yet. So you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's going to give you a chance. You never know who's going to see something inside of you. So just be persistent. And again, it's important to advocate for yourself. If you want to change your career, it's a possible. Trust me, I did it, you know, over the age of 40. And I know it's tough out there now for people of all ages with, you know, who want to change careers. But, you know, LinkedIn is my savior without a doubt. And if I was to job search again, I would utilize my network because, you know, you can apply via Indeed. That's great. But there's nothing that screams how awesome you are better than somebody advocating for you. So at Berkeley College, we have different, you know, we have about 25 career counselors who are willing to advocate for our grads, willing to say a good word about them to the employers that we know. We have these like low hanging fruit of jobs. You know, so if you're not utilizing, you know, Berkeley College Career Services, like now is the time, except I think Jim's signed off, but like, you know, so contact Jim tomorrow, contact Anna tomorrow. And I know you're still here, but I'm saying like, I don't want people to call you right now. Like we're here to help you. We're here to advocate for you. I would network and have other people advocate for me if I was in a job search. Same thing go on LinkedIn. I'd have my LinkedIn contacts advocate for me because I'm not just a resume. You're not just a resume. You're not just black type on, you know, white paper. You're a human being. You have a story to tell. And the advocacy aspect and the networking, like Jim said, is important. So. Anything else? Questions, comments? Everybody get the email address with like regards to the shirt and maybe some sunglasses or something. Career services online at berkeleycollege.edu. The first 10 people, maybe I'll even open it to more. You know, if you guys send me your name, mailing address, and t-shirt size, I promise you'll have a t-shirt in the next couple of weeks, a Berkeley College t-shirt. So. So anything else anybody want to talk about? I know this is like it's a fun social event. Anybody else want to talk about anything alumni related? Does anybody have any kind of successes maybe they want to announce before we sign off? I know the last meeting I think was a month ago. Any successes they want to announce, something good that's happened to them in the last month?
I did just want to mention that I put Anna Yee, who's the alumni director for alumni relations, her email. Christine, I believe you're New York. Her email is in the chat for anyone who needs it. And
I wrote it down, thank you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, and again, my email address is eor-andruck@berkeleycollege.edu. And if you like, just Google my name, Eor Andruck, my LinkedIn pops up at the top. Connect with me. I'll help you in any way that I can. So that's all I got. Any other questions, comments? I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for you know, logging in tonight. Thank you all for, you know, we had everybody still on from the beginning, so it's wonderful. And bless you all. Have a blessed summer, safe summer, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eor.
You too. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Nice
one.
seeing everyone.
Bye.